Well, I'm with a man who's had quite a good time of it since joining Norwich City, Kieran Scott, that is Norwich City's head of recruitment. Kieran, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem.
Got quite a lot to get through, of course, because it's been quite a phenomenal time. But first of all, phenomenal season, of course, this year. What personal satisfaction do you take from what's happened here in the last 2 years or so?
Yeah, obviously I take great satisfaction from what's gone on. Certainly leading a recruitment department, we've made a contribution that obviously hasn't gone unnoticed, so it's been a great season.
Has indeed. Has it been a surprise to you? I've asked that question of a few people and they keep sort of saying, well, a little bit, but we backed what we've done, so yeah. Why would it be?
Well, I think that's the standard answer. I think you've always got to back what you do. Has it been a surprise? I expected us to be a lot better. We'd recruited players that we felt the manager wanted and could get more out of, etc. So we always felt that it was going to be better. Did I expect to sit at the top of the league? I'd probably be lying if I said yes. But I'm not disappointed to see it. But no, it's a little surprise, but not a major surprise.
I mean, that must be a phenomenal backing for what you've done, and as again that satisfaction of seeing it work out like that. Because it's not necessarily just the recruitment, is it? It's then how those tools are used and them actually being used the way you kind of hope they would be. Yeah,
100%. I think obviously we've had a lot of credit as recruitment, but Stuart had to back the players that I brought to the table. They weren't the easiest players to back. Even if you look at Emi Buendia, you see the end product now of a fantastic player. But when we were watching him at Leonessa, he was a little bit overweight, 5'7", had a little bit of a temper, could be a little bit...
Still got a little bit of a temper.
Yeah, but that's his edge, and that's what makes him, for me, such an exciting player. But there was a million reasons to say no, but Stuart backed me and the guys on it. And then Daniel's been brave enough to play him. Again, there's a lot of reasons not to play him. He had a little stop-start at the start of the season. He had an injury, so he didn't quite get the pre-season that he wanted. But Daniel still backed him and played him. So all three cogs had to work for that to be a success.
Fantastic. We'll come on to Emi Buendia again in a moment, if we may. But everyone watching, me, wants to know what the secret is of this phenomenal recruitment success. So Kieran, what's the secret?
Yeah, if I could box it, I could probably sell it, I guess. I think it's hard work, having the right people, knowing exactly what they're looking for, and then, like I say, having the right people above me that backed what we did. I'm never going to go away from saying it's just hard work. We've watched thousands of games of football, been to thousands of games, travelled all over many countries, and we've reaped the rewards from that.
We were also talking before we started recording. Let's be honest, you don't really want to say the secret, do you? Because as you would know, you want to keep track of what people are doing, and likewise, that Norwich's success is built on something that you don't want people. You can have them admiring and respecting it, but you probably don't want them copying it.
No, I think I try and keep. Listen, like all clubs, we probably do a couple of little things that might be a bit different. I would like to keep them in-house for now. I don't want to be at the next Leonessa game sat next to 4 or 5 different clubs that weren't there last time. So obviously we'd like to keep that one in.
That's fair enough. Well, we'll let you have that one. Don't worry. I don't want to get blamed for screwing up the recruitment process. Let's get on to Emi then. The recruitment story has kind of been told. As you said, you went to Leonessa to watch him, and there was no one there, and lots of people are still probably now wondering how you got a player like that for 1.5 million. But I guess you've maybe given a little insight there into the fact that what we see now wasn't exactly the player that you were watching in La Liga or La Liga 2 last season. Yeah,
I think there were reasons not to take Emi, and I can see why some clubs maybe decided to say no. But, I felt, knowing that our head coach is very good at getting another 20% out of players, which he's done all season. I knew, with our strength and conditioning department, we'd be able to trim him off. I knew the dietary would get him better. I knew everything would. I said to Stuart, I think there's another 25% in there, and I think we could get that. And I think we have probably maybe had a little bit more than 25%, which is fantastic.
Absolutely, but that also underlines, I guess, that a head coach and first team group having their own players to work with. I mean, because you could say, as hard as last season was in a lot of ways, maybe they could have done better with some of the talent that they had at their disposal. I guess it must be a different dynamic with the players who will fit into how someone wants to do things.
Yeah, I just think it just needed a freshening up. I think just some of the guys that were here previously, no disrespect to them, I just think the time had come to move on for everybody, and I think Daniel inherited, I wouldn't have said a bad group of players, I just think he inherited a group that had come out of the Premier League, were on high level money, still on high level money, and we needed young and hungry and a group that wanted to really take the club on. And I just don't think the group that were there were going to do that, to be honest.
With Emi again, because you mentioned there was no one there watching them. Have people come up to you since saying, or have they told you why they weren't there? Or?
I'll be fair, between Timu and Emmy, the amount of scouts that have said to me, yeah, we were close to taking him, etc. You know, many have. Listen, there were people there, but it was predominantly Spanish clubs that were there whenever I was there. I never saw an English club there. I've read a lot about the Leeds link with the owner having a link to Leonessa. You know, the boy, in fairness, was on loan from Getafe there, so you know, I'm not trying to bow anyone out there, but it wasn't as clear cut as that. I think they just decided that he wasn't for them.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
So it's been quite busy with people coming up to you and sort of asking how you did things and things.
No,
like that.
a lot of people come up to me and tell me they were going to do the same things, but never did. I don't know. But.
Well, that probably is satisfying as well, I'm sure. I mean, also you did effectively sign him in the January, didn't you? So and it's noticeable, I think, that Norwich have done business quite early to make sure that they're there, which shows, I think, a degree of long-term planning and how they've done things. How long is that? How long was that process with Emmy? But you know, sort of from first seeing him or first being flagged up to then signing him, and also how long is it usually, I suppose, with other players?
With the Emmy situation, he was first seen on video. We do a lot of video work, and we scout a lot of countries on video first before we go to the country, just for pure budgetary reasons and etc. So we watch a lot on video. Emmy had got reasonably good reports, and then he came up very well on our Opta stats data that we use. The two sort of coincided, where then that's where I step in as my job to then go, okay, maybe there's an interesting player here, which obviously there was. Once I'd seen him on video, I had some clips done and sort of showed him to Stuart straight away, and I mean there was an air of excitement because you know, Stuart knows what he's looking for as well, and he could see straight away. So obviously we got out there, and the rest is history with him. But sort of from start to finish how that happened. In terms of him actually signing in the January, we both knew if we didn't move quick, that could escalate to where there are more clubs there. So we knew that needed to be done quick, or the fear of losing him. Because one thing we didn't have was a bucket load of money to pay if Leeds did turn up and started offering more money. We would have lost. So that was why we did it early. And Stuart was top drawer. He got on the plane, flew straight out, met the guys at Getafe, did the deal, no messing around. And I think that's paid off for everybody, that move.
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, you must be seeing them in action a few times, though. So I mean, we must be talking, you know, several weeks in terms of the actual process, and say with players like Temu and as well, it must be like weeks and weeks in advance.
Months and months in advance. You know, Emmy's first report on the system would have been around August of that season.
Okay.
So yeah.
I also wonder about Emmy because I could sense the excitement once he'd sort of already signed from people. Not that we quite knew who it was, but we knew there was an excitement. But was he one where you really hoped the media wouldn't get wind of it? Well, as you said, you need to do it quickly. Is it other clubs you're worried about, or is it the media? Because obviously, part of our job is kind of rumbling these rumours out there.
I think we were happy that it didn't come out, because I think just for the boy, he was young. He's 21 when he joined us. He's a foreign player coming over. He needed a bit of time to settle without anyone really knowing who he was. I actually look back now and wonder if the injury that he got in pre-season actually was a good thing, just to give him time where people didn't really know what we had. And then he had his time, and then obviously once he did get going, I think we all saw what was coming. But in that period, I think he'd settled, and his wife had had a baby as well. So he just got that little period to settle. So yeah, in some respects, it's good if you guys can keep off of them for a few months, let them settle.
Yeah, no promises there, Kieran.
Yeah.
But in general as well, just taking it away from Emmy and in other transfers, I mean, do you keep an eye out for transfer speculation, or do you kind of hope most things go under the radar? Also, do we tend to get them quite late down the track, do you reckon?
Yeah, in fairness, you do. I've seen a million links that we've had in the press recently, and they're not players that we've even considered. So someone's missing something somewhere. So no, at the minute, I would say that you guys are off at the minute.
Oh, thanks for that. Cheers, Kieran. Yeah, whichever. Yeah. Doing you a favour. Is there one that you're really proud of in terms of the signings here? I mean, I guess obviously we've spoken a lot about Emmy and Timu too, but
I'll be honest, I'm proud of all of the signings for loads of different reasons. Emmy and Timu quite rightly get the plaudits for what they've done, but even the likes of Onel Hernandez has come in again. No one really knew who Onel was. He's come in and done fantastic this season. Daniel got hold of him at the start of the season, and I don't know what he give him, but he's just completely changed and has transformed this season into, every time he goes forward, he looks like something's going to happen. Kenny McLean's joined us. Kenny's been fantastic. He's just been that rock in the middle of the park, doesn't get carried away, and then obviously the goals at Bristol City were vital. Tim's been fantastic, Krul. Jordan Rhodes, I mean, Jordan's come in, not quite had what we thought. I think I wouldn't be out of order to say we thought he'd be the starter and Teemu would back him up, but it's obviously been the other way. Not one issue from Jordan. He's just got on with it and been fantastic round the place. So proud of all of the signings this season, to be honest.
Yeah, fair play too. Is there anyone you regret not getting in? Are there any sort of fishes that slip out?
That's a great question.
Well, too many easy questions so far, you see.
There was a player that we were very, very close to getting, but he changed his mind, decided to sign somewhere else, and I'm not going to say who, but he since has played for his country at a very high level. He was offered a better deal and went elsewhere, but that would be the one, but I'm not going to name him for obvious reasons.
Fair enough. I mean, that must be part of the job, I suppose. You can't dictate that. And
no, I mean, the offer that he received and the club that he went to, it was in his country as well. You know, it was understandable, but he was one that I was particularly gutted about. But that is part of, you can't get all of them as much as you want to. You can't get all of them.
Well, leave you guys to all figure out and try and work out who it was. I tell you, I have to ask you this question as well. I mean, there was a suggestion at the weekend that sort of came from somewhere that there were 2 players above Teemu in your list for strikers. Was that actually true? Put me on the spot.
Yes, to be fair, the striker list that's the one-off list. That it's always a big list. It's a big group of players, and they're obviously the hardest players to sign. They're easy to identify because they're very obviously out there scoring goals. Otherwise, you wouldn't be interested. So they're very easy to identify. Signing them is a completely different process. Strikers, agents, they know they've got a player that's stocks high because he's scoring. They're the last to commit. They have 15 clubs that want to sign. So I wouldn't have said he was down, up or anything on the list. Teemu. He's one that we really liked. He was one I particularly really had a strong feeling for, just because when I'd watched him in the games, he just found 2 yards of space there, and I thought, well, you're only going to need half a yard of space here to maybe score us 10 goals. What do I know? He's nearly scored 30. Hopefully at Villa he does make that 30, but no, he wasn't. I wouldn't have said he was down or up the list. He was on the list. Yeah. It's probably a fairer judgment on that one.
Yeah, well, we'll take that most definitely. I'm not going to ask you who they were, by the way, but and I guess, do they stay on your list? We'll talk about the Premier League in a bit, of course, but you know, if you miss out on people, do you keep them?
Yeah, they stay on the list. 100% they stay on the list. If they were good enough to be on it in the first place, they don't all of a sudden disappear off of it. So no, they stay on our list. We monitor all the players, and you know, there are players that were on our list last season that are still there now, being heavily watched and monitored.
There are. Tell me how crucial lead recruitment analyst, can't say it. It's a tough word, that Mariella Nisataki, which I hope I've said right, is to this recruitment work here at the football club.
Yeah, she's been fantastic for us. She does all the behind the scenes stuff, the clipping. She does all the stats work for us. She puts all the videos together. She's supported well by Lee Dunn, who works closely with her, and you can't put a player into Mariella that she doesn't know. She's on any country, anywhere, any division, she'll go, yeah, I know that player. She's encyclopedia of knowledge.
And we're talking different level to people who play a lot of Football Manager, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah, we are. Yeah.
Because some people might think, well, I know lots of players, but I play Football Manager a lot.
There's knowing players, but then there's also knowing where they fit us and where they don't. Where, to be fair to Marietta, where she's excelled, she, being at the club helps. She's seen how Daniel works. She worked closely with Christian, who worked here up until a point. So she knows the insides of how they are. So she's been very clever in how she then identifies players and puts players on our radar. So no, she's been fantastic.
That's brilliant stuff. The way you do it, as we kind of alluded to at the start, you know, other clubs probably want to start doing it, but they don't do it at the moment. And I think we all look at what they do sometimes and go, oh, well, that's an interesting one. I mean, do you scratch your head at the recruitment that some clubs sort of take on, or how they go about it? Or can you generally see where they're coming from? Yeah,
I think each club has a different situation behind the scenes that, to be fair, none of us are aware of, including myself. There's different pressures. I think some clubs do have a lot of money, and with that comes an expectance to spend. I think, you know, there's clubs, I'm trying not to name any desperately because I don't want any phone calls, but there are clubs that have, I think, thrown money at situations thinking that's going to solve it, and I don't think that's the way, to be fair. But yeah, I do scratch my head at some, I must say.
We all do, so that's fair enough. All right, well, let's go on to next season, shall we? Because I know the philosophy, the ideals, they won't change. Everyone will be quite clear on that, and absolutely fair enough. But how does the recruitment change? Because you look at the physicality of the Premier League. It's fewer games, but the players all seem stronger and well, fitter's not the right word, but they seem to be more capable of doing things almost.
Yeah, I mean, the league's full of the best athletes, the best technical players. Their mentalities are probably strong with that as well. You are going into an elite league that's well known across the world for having the best players in it. So yeah, the step up will be big, but I'm confident that we have got the players. We know how we play. Sometimes it may come unstuck, but we're never going to turn our backs on how we play and what we do. So I don't fear. I'm looking forward to pitting our brains against them, to be honest with you.
It must obviously alter the list to a degree, or alter who and what you're looking for.
Yeah, it does, because I think we're obviously not going to all of a sudden be rich and have loads of money to spend, but we're going to have slightly more than we did last season. So we just got to try and find the players that are on the list that were slightly above where we were before, and then we've got to rely on the coaching staff doing what they've done this year with the players and improved them tenfold. No pressure, guys. I've got to do it again.
And I tell you what, how difficult is attitude as well? Because that must be a little bit tricky, because there is more money around, so does become a bigger factor, you imagine. And it always struck me, Norwich have obviously been in the Premier League for a few years. People almost go anywhere because they're playing in the Premier League. It seems like that. It probably is harder to get them into the Championship in some ways, but that must be a factor in terms of their attitude and almost why they're coming here.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to get players in the Championship than it is in the Premier League when, if we call ourselves in the Premier League, I don't think I'd be unfair to say a bottom 10 team in the Premier League. I don't think that would be unfair for me to say that. To convince players to come here that are going to be good enough to move us out of that top 10 into the next level, one, it takes a lot of finances, but second of all, you're asking a player to then maybe turn his back on a club in Spain that's playing in the Europa League or the Champions League potentially. So, yeah, it's a tough market to find players in.
I bet indeed. And in terms of judging attitude, is that part of the recruitment process for you guys? Because I guess that's hard to maybe get numbers on and pin things down like that. Or is that kind of more of a question of where Daniel, the coaches, and Stuart come in?
Yeah, that's always been the tough one on attitude, because you can speak to a million different people, and what I've found in football, quite rightly, people don't want to say negative things about people that could affect their careers. They don't want to be that person, which I understand. So that's a tough one to find out their attitudes. I think we look for real subtle signs on the pitch. If things are down, are they willing to work hard? Are they willing to run? Are they, when they get subbed, is it arms in the air? Is it bottles getting kicked, or are they walking off the pitch fair? And we always just look for real subtle things just to see character traits, really, and see if, you never really know until you meet the players, and obviously you don't sometimes meet the players till they walk through this front door. So it can be a tough one.
I know Stuart Webb's already spoken quite a bit about attitude, so that's going to clearly be a factor over this summer. When did you start formulating your Premier League list? Or, you were here a couple of, almost 2 years ago. Did you already have an angle for it? No,
we tend to, when we watch a game of football, there's always different players to watch in each game. So you might have players. So I think as a head of recruitment, I think my job is to safeguard the club for whatever happens. Let's say the season went the other way and we were terrible and we got relegated. I also have to make sure that there's a plan to come out of League One as much as there would be to go up. So I tend to work on a free league situation wherever I am, whatever I do, because I think that's my job to do that. You'll watch many games and see players, we call them A-stars within the department, because if Sheikh Mansour wants to come and buy Norwich all of a sudden and says, right guys, here's £500 million who we signing, I think we still have to have a list there as well. I think it's only right to. So, we really started to up the level in terms of Premier League at Christmas. That was when we started to think, right, we do need to think about this, because we were playing well, we were winning games, we knew we weren't going to be far off. Could I sit there and say, yes, we're going to, potentially win the league and get promoted? No, but we knew that we needed to start planning and we needed to start getting it in place.
I mean, the guys and girls watching this will have known probably slightly frustrating with all the draws, just putting things off a little bit, because you want to do it as soon as possible. A little bit of
in front of the fans, it was all part of the plan.
Hoodwinked. I was going to say, was there any part of you guys sort of going, we can't push the button until we get to this point, or? Yeah, that's a difficult balance, I'm sure.
That's a really, really tough balance. You are spinning plates. You genuinely are. And listen, I wanted the guys to get over the line as quick as possible so that we could do it. But like I say, I thought it just added to the entertainment of a fantastic season that we did it then.
Well, that's very true. Does this level the Premier League, does that make it more exciting for you in terms of what you can do now? Because I would imagine personally that it's probably tougher to find players that have immediate Premier League potential that no one knows about, or that, you know, bringing those players in would strike me as tough.
Yeah, but I take a lot of heart in what we did last season. And I look at, you know, the players that we've signed. I don't think anyone could say that they aren't potential Premier League players. We just need to do the same again and work hard and find the players that we found last season. I'm pretty confident that a lot of our squad could play in the Premier League. Players that we've brought to the club, I think, could play in the Premier League. So we just need to keep following that, because we're not all of a sudden going to go, here's £20 million, let's just go and buy that player. That's not there. That's not going to happen. So yeah, we've just got to do what we did last season and do it again. And I'm confident we're doing that, and hopefully same again.
Indeed. Well, I mean, is that a benefit from how Norwich have gone about it? You know, it is probably the best technical side I've seen it play at Carrow Road in terms of how they go about it. Yeah,
I think the technical level of the guys is I mean, how many comments have we had? How many pundits have said they look like a Premier League team already? I would have to agree with that. Some teams turned up and stopped us from doing what we do, and I don't blame them. They've got to try and win the game as well. When we were allowed to do what we wanted to do in some respects, I thought we looked a Premier League team at times. So.
You've also said, and I think it was more in terms of how the teams and departments work, that there's similarities in sort of what it was like for you at Wolves, which I think you were at Wolves until 2017. I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, a fraction earlier, I think.
So, I mean, most will want to obviously follow their lead, but it strikes me that the financial models of the two clubs are so vastly different that it's not really quite like that.
Yeah, I must say the Wolves I worked at and that Stuart worked at is not the Wolves of today. They've turned into a really big club, and you know, they've got a strong identity in what they're doing, and their players are, you know, very high level players. I mean, Ruben Neves was captain at Porto. He was playing in the Championship, you know, so yeah, that was not the Wolves I worked at, I must admit. So there's been a huge change there, to be honest.
I mean, when you saw what they were doing and how they were doing it, I mean, because as you say, Ruben Neves in the Championship, it was fairly ridiculous. I think a lot of people thought it was at the time, probably. But
it was ridiculous, to be fair, but that was what they chose to do, and credit to them. They got promoted, which we've seen isn't an easy thing to do. And they've gone into the Premier League and they've done fantastic there. I mean, I can't remember exactly where they are. They said 9th, 8th, 9th. They've done brilliant. So, you know, like I say, not quite the Wolves I work for.
And I guess it's interesting how differently Norwich and Sheffield United have done it. You know, you look at the Sheffield United side, it's predominantly homegrown players. I mean, you say they're generally going to cost more money. So, and obviously different style of play in many ways as well. So it's really interesting that the two almost extremes have managed to achieve success.
Yeah, no, they've been brilliant as well. I mean, we kept looking at them thinking, are they going to fall away? And then they just haven't. They've just kept coming. They've kept coming. They play a brilliant brand of football of overlapping centre-backs that, you know, get assists and goals, and it's brilliant. They're great to watch as well. They're very direct and powerful, and they're a good side, and ultimately they deserve to come up as well. So,
well, go fishing now. How many do you expect to come in for next season? What's the sort of ideal number? Because we can see what the squad is now, and we're probably not expecting too many departures in terms of the sort of frontline players.
I always think it's hard to put numbers on, to be honest, because you don't quite know what's going to come your way. So to sit here and actually put a number on would be very difficult, because I think we've got an idea of what we would like, but then we also don't know what could happen, what could come. You know, one thing that I am aware of, the big clubs really like Norwich and how we play. So there might be opportunities for loans to come our way that might not have been, which you wouldn't say no to, because it might be one of their exceptionally high level youngsters. So I couldn't put a number on it, I've got to be honest with you. I don't see changes, if that's what you're looking for. I see some additions, but I certainly couldn't put a number on it.
Yeah, fair enough. And in terms of the areas where you're looking, are they the obvious ones?
Yeah, I think so. I'll be honest, I have read enough articles to suggest that everyone's on the same page, I think, in terms of positions that we'd be looking at, but I think we've also got to be looking to strengthen where we can anywhere, but we do have some key areas that we want to strengthen.
And how about key markets as well? Because if we take it just out of football for about 5 seconds, we obviously know there's Brexit going on, and it struck me, maybe say a few years, we had a lot of Ligue 1 players coming in doing phenomenally well, and it was seen as a real sort of rich vein to tap into, and then it sort of dried up, and that was that, and it was almost like it ran out, which of course isn't how it was, but you must be quite conscious of having to spread your net sort of constantly wider. That must be really hard to kind of keep on top of.
Yeah, I mean, the Brexit situation, I don't think anyone really knows the answer to, so it's really difficult for me to sort of plan in that side of things. So I think at this present moment, we've got an eye on it, we talk about it a lot, we've had various meetings about what it could mean for the club and for football in general, but we're sticking to what we do in the markets that we scout, and we're working the way we work for now, and if anything changes, we'll obviously be on top of that if it happens.
How's it been working with Daniel Farke and with Stuart Webber? I think Daniel's clearly, with the way he's played youth and also the way he's used the tools that he's been given, it's been phenomenal. Yeah. And the way Stuart Webber has kind of led the club, but also, as you kind of alluded to earlier, he knows what he's looking for, and I guess he's got a very keen eye for a player himself. Yeah,
I think Stuart will deep down always be a scout. That is something I know, knowing him well. He loves football. He loves watching football matches, and I don't really want to say it on camera for him to hear, but he's obviously still a very good scout. With a good eye, but no, it's actually good to have him in the department in that sense, because he gets it. When you bring an Emi Buendia to the table, he straight away understands it, where I maybe have worked for other people that would have just not seen that, and that wouldn't have happened. But obviously having somebody who understands recruitment and scouting, it did happen. Yeah. Which I'm thankful for.
Yeah, absolutely. And Daniel as well. I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? That possibly, I'm definitely not going to pick holes, but some of the ones that haven't quite worked out have tended to be some of the homegrown signings. Is that just more coincidence than anything? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I genuinely do think it is just a coincidence. I don't think it's anything more than that. I mean, domestically, Tim I would put down as domestic because he's been here for a long time. But yeah, I just think that the youngsters that broke through just I think they brought the young and hungry, and maybe the sort of domestic senior lads that were here couldn't keep up with that and just fell by the wayside. But there certainly wasn't nothing in that as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, absolutely. Lastly, I mean, we've got to talk about departures and sales, because they do happen, and I guess they probably generally they can be sort of ones you predict, but they can also be ones you don't. So how do you sort of prepare for that? If I was to say, look, are you prepared for any member of the squad leaving, or can you be that definite?
All I can do is prepare for the worst. I always hope for the best and prepare for the worst, basically. I don't want to lose any of our youngsters. You want them to stay, you want them to come and fight and be in the Premier League with us, which I'm sure they will. But if somebody decides that crazy money's available for one of them and a club have to look at it, then, I've got a plan for that, because I have to. As scouting and recruitment, you have to be ready for all sorts of situations. So, yeah, we're ready, but hopefully I'm not having to activate that list of players. To be honest with you, I'd rather they stayed with us.
Well, yeah, too true. I think we'd all agree with that. Just two very quick ones then. Where do you set the expectations for next season? My view, if anyone cares, is that Premier League 17th, you just try and survive, but there is clearly a lot of ambition around this club. You can sense it. Yeah,
it's a tough question to answer that one, really, because I don't really go into any season wanting to be 17th. I'm much more, as everyone at a club, like you rightly say, has got more ambition to be higher than that. But I think if you started the season and someone said here's 17th, I think everyone would take it, because I think it's going to be a very, very tough challenge. We've seen what's gone on this season. Fulham have spent a lot of money, gone straight back down. It's not an easy league. We've just got to go in and be what we are. Our identity's strong. We play how we play. Our players need to step up, and hopefully we can mid-table. No pressure. No, 17th, I'll take it now. No problem.
And how much are you looking forward to it? Because the Premier League, it can be tough, and fans can get a little bit annoyed that it's not quite as free flowing and so many wins as the Championship, obviously. But yeah. I mean, it is still where everyone wants to be, isn't it?
Absolutely. We all want to be there, everybody, the fans, the staff, the players, everyone wants to be there. I just think there needs to just be a bit of reality on when we are there. It's going to be hard, it's going to be exceptionally tough, and there's going to be some really difficult games where, I've seen even top teams get whacked this season by other clubs. We've just got to stick with it and stick to what we've done this season. Hopefully carries us into next season, and we get a bit of momentum.
Yeah, I tell you what, it must make it an easier sell when there's 5,000 fans going to Wigan, and when there's the atmosphere that we've had at Carrow Road this season.
100%. The club, I remember when Onel come and saw the fans, and you could tell straight away it struck with him that it's a well supported football club, and he could just tell that there's a lot of heart around the city, and he definitely wanted to be a part of it. It really helped, that one. So yeah, absolutely.
That was before he discovered Argos.
Yes, and his love for Argos. I I didn't realise there wasn't an Argos in Germany, to be honest.
Well, make sure you tell the rest of the German players you want to recruit, and that'll sort them out.
He's going to enjoy Christmas.
He will indeed.
Yeah.
Kieran, thank you so much for your time.
No,
Much appreciated.
Thank you.